For nearly 50 years, the E-3 Sentry aircraft served as the cornerstone of the U.S. Air Force's ability to keep eyes in the sky. In the waning years of the Cold War, and throughout America's wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, the Airborne Warning and Control System aircraft, or AWACS, and its trademark 30-foot rotating radar dome swept battlefields and potential conflict zones around the world. But that Northrop Grumman-made APY sensor takes 10 seconds to fully rotate and refresh its view of aircraft the AWACS crew is trying to track. A lot can change in a 10-second blink of an eye, and aircraft flying at hundreds of miles an hour can move more than a mile in that time span, and for a jet topping Mach 1, that could be more than 2 miles. Boeing's E-7A, the aircraft set to replace the E-3 AWACS, will give the Air Force a different way of looking at battlefields. Instead of periodic rotational sweeps, the E-7's multirole electronically scanned array long-range sensor will allow operators to fix its gaze on a target or several of them. It essentially comes down to the ability to stare at something. Carson Elmore, who runs business development for Boeing's International E-7 program, said in a March 8 briefing on the E-7's capabilities at the Air and Space Forces Association's AFA Warfare Symposium in Colorado. And top Air Force generals aren't hiding how eager they are to have the E-7 and its new capabilities at their disposal. "I want them very quickly," Pacific Air Forces Commander General Kenneth Wilsbach said in a roundtable with reporters at the conference that day. The Air Force in February awarded Boeing a $1.2 billion contract to begin work on the E-7 fleet. The service plans to reach 26 aircraft by 2032. The Air Forces of Australia, Turkey and South Korea are already flying E-7s, and production is underway for a British fleet. The Royal Australian Air Force calls its E-7 the Wedgetail, but the US has not decided on its own E-7's name. The US Air Force plans to first buy 2 rapid prototype E-7s, with the first to be fielded in 2027, and then make a production decision on the remainder of the fleet in 2025. The service has repeatedly said its AWACS capabilities, which were state-of-the-art when first fielded in the late 1970s, are out of date and not advanced enough for future conflicts. Furthermore, the AWACS aging 707-based airframe and TF-33 engines are increasingly hard to maintain, the service argued, and its radar capabilities are outdated. The Air Force is retiring its fleet of AWACS, which once numbered 31, and plans to be down to 16 by the end of fiscal 2024. In a March 10 budget briefing with reporters at the Pentagon, Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall downplayed the risk of a capability gap emerging by slashing the AWACS fleet nearly in half before the first E-7 arrives. "The E-3 is essentially not effective in the environments we're most worried about," Kendall said. "The sensor is pretty ancient at this point, and the aircraft are very expensive to maintain." At the symposium briefing, which took place in a trailer mocked up to resemble the interior of an E-7, Boeing officials walked reporters through how it plans to build the Air Force's new E-7 fleet and what makes them different from the AWACS. New plane and fresh radar. The biggest differences between the AWACS and the upcoming E-7 will be how the sensors work and the views they provide, said Rod Miranda, Boeing's head of business development for its domestic and international E-7 program. The E-7's multirole electronically scanned array, or Mesa, will be able to lock its view on a target instead of having to sweep around, and the operators on the E-7 will be able to tell it to refresh that view at certain intervals. Boeing would not say how quickly the Mesa will be able to refresh its view, citing security concerns, but Elmore said it would be able to do rapid relooks. The Mesa, which is also being made by Northrop Grumman, will also be able to look in several directions at once, allowing the operators at the E-7's array of 10 stations to simultaneously monitor multiple angles. Elmore said this will allow the aircraft to considerably narrow down the possible location of an aircraft, resulting in greatly improved situational awareness. E-7 controllers will also be able to set its array to conduct periodic sweeps in several directions, Elmore said. For instance, the controllers could set the Mesa to watch targets on one side most of the time, and every so often look in the other direction to make sure somebody's not sneaking up on me, he explained. Like the AWACS, the E-7 will also be able to listen for radar and other electronic signals a potential enemy aircraft is emitting, then locate the plane and check the signal against a database to help identify the type of plane. Boeing officials declined to discuss the range of the E-7's sensor and how it compares to the AWACS, as well as its self-defense capabilities, citing classification concerns. Boeing's website lists chaff and flares among the E-7's defensive measures. Mounting the Mesa array on the E-7, along with all the power and capabilities that its 737 body can carry, provides a more capable means of conducting surveillance compared to smaller drones, fighters and satellites, Miranda said. "You can't put this kind of power in an unmanned aircraft," Miranda noted. "Space same thing. Massive array to give you a lot of capability." The E-7 will also require a smaller crew than the AWACS thanks to newer technologies, Elmore said. The Air Force's AWACS fact sheet said it requires a flight crew of 4, plus a mission crew of 13 to 19 specialists. Boeing said the E-7 can get the job done with just a pilot and co-pilot and a variable number of mission operators running the bank of 10 stations lining the aircraft, depending on mission requirements. That crew could be as small as 3 if a flight only needs 1 mission operator to use a scope. And, for example, if an E-7 carries out a lengthy and complex mission, AWACS operations sometimes exceeded 24 hours. It can seat up to 21 people, the pilot and co-pilot, 10 mission operators at the stations, and 9 more in reserve to rotate in and out. The cockpit also has a jump seat for a third pilot. Each station 6 on the port side, for on starboard, has 2 displays operators can use to spread out radar signals and chat windows used to coordinate with other aircraft, the Air Operations Center on the ground or other teammates elsewhere. The operators also have intercoms, and the plane's radios will be able to use more capable mobile user objective system satellite communications. Although the E-7 has several features that differ from the AWACS, Elmore said Boeing kept the stations and how they are controlled similar to what E-3 operators are used to. "We wanted to have a very short training and transition time frame for the operators when they get out of the E-3 and they come to the E-7," he noted.